The 2019 NFL trade deadline is just about a week away, so let's dive into some of the top players who could be moved this year in the NFL. We begin with Trent Williams of the Washington Redskins. Now, I know the Redskins keep claiming they're not going to trade away Williams. At some point, though, he's going to be on a new team. He doesn't want to be in Washington. They'll deal him, but it might not be till the offseason. Either way, we know there have been trade talks around the Redskins left tackle. Browns GM John Dorsey confirmed those trade talks. Now, there has been plenty of buzz about a possible Williams and Cleveland trade. Now, we'll see if it actually happens. This would be, by far, one of the more notable and best players moved. So here's my proposed trade for Trent Williams to Cleveland. The Browns, of course, get Trent Williams. The Redskins get a first-round pick. The rumors are they want more than just a first-round pick. Now, maybe it's a receiver, Rashard Higgins, Antonio Callaway, throwing that out there. Or maybe it's just another draft pick. The Browns have 2 third-round picks. One from Texans, assuming Duke Johnson plays in 10 games. He's almost there. And then, of course, their own. I'll give them the lesser here to make it a little bit more palatable for Cleveland. So let me know in the comments section, who do you want to see traded? Let me know in the comments. See if we'll get to your player. We got 10 players in total here. We've already gone through one in Trent Williams. Let me know what player you want to see traded. Bonus points if you tell me what team you want to see him dealt to. All right, the Denver Broncos, they are up next here. Well, I guess with several players, spoiler alert. First up, Emmanuel Sanders. The report is that the Broncos are expected to trade Emmanuel Sanders. Look, they're not going to make the playoffs. They might be around it. They're not going to get in. They're just not good enough. That means it is time to sell veterans in the last year of their contracts. That fits Emmanuel Sanders to a T. Now, he has a $10.25 million base salary for this year. But remember, that's already been paid out for a couple of games. So really, it's just rounding here. But cut that in about half. That's about what the new team would pay. There are several teams who have made calls on Emmanuel Sanders. One of them, the San Francisco 49ers. The Patriots have interest. The Panthers were mentioned by Adam Schefter. And then teams like the Green Bay Packers, New Orleans Saints also make sense. I think you see Emmanuel Sanders dealt, and it probably ends up going for about a 4th-round pick, a.k.a. about what Demaryius Thomas went for last year when the Broncos dealt in the Texans at the trade deadline. All right, sticking with Denver here again. How about Chris Harris Jr., the talented corner who at one point did demand a trade, but things are fine now for Denver, well, at least between those two. The on-field product, though, not that good. Now it's Denver's turn to try and trade away Chris Harris. He is in the last year of his deal. Makes about $9.8 million in terms of base salary. I think his trade value is a little bit higher than Emmanuel Sanders. More important position, cornerback, although it's pretty even versus receiver. I think a better overall player, not by that much, because I do love Emmanuel Sanders, and he's cheaper as well. So some possible fits here for Chris Harris. The Niners, I think, still make some sense. The Chiefs, although being in division makes that really difficult to actually do, I think, from Denver's perspective. The Vikings always want more cornerbacks. The Saints could use some help. But number one for me, it's the Philadelphia Eagles. That secondary has been roasted all year long by opposing quarterbacks. They need cornerback help. Chris Harris comes in, instantly becomes their best secondary player. Would be a huge boost to Philadelphia, who is still in the midst of trying to win right now. They are always aggressive. They had a lot of interest in going out and getting Jalen Ramsey. Of course, in the end, the price tag did not work for them. Chris Harris, much cheaper. I got him going for a 2020 third-round pick. More than Denver would get if he leaves in free agency, because it comes now and would be earlier overall. Now, today's show is brought to you by BetDSI. Head over to chatsports.com/bet. Use that promo code NFL120 for a 120% deposit bonus. I don't know what that means. You put down $50, it's going to give you $60 for free. So if you've bet a lot on the Chargers, like me, you still got plenty left over money. If you bet a lot on the Falcons, like me, you got money left over. Chatsports.com/bet. Promo code is NFL120. Speaking of the Falcons, look at some of their players who are very much on the trade block right now. How about Vic Beasley? The report is that the Falcons are openly saying, come take him from us, please. He had that 15.5 sack season back in 2016, and it was always potentially fool's gold because the sack-to-hurry ratio was off. He was due for regression. The problem is for Vic Beasley, it's been really bad regression. 15.5 in 2016. Since then, 5 sacks in 2017, 5 sacks in 2018, and just 1.5 this year. In the last 2.5 years, he's not yet matched that production in 2016. He carries a hefty price tag. I don't think there's that much trade value on Vic Beasley. However, teams always need pass rush help. Somebody, Buffalo, Detroit, I think makes some sense to come calling and try and get a pass rush to help boost their playoff chances. Now, if you guys want live NFL trade deadline coverage, make sure you are subscribed. Let the bosses here, the Fat Cats Chat Sports, know, hey, we want live NFL trade coverage. I want it, but you guys got to be subscribed, otherwise they might not let us do it. Link there is below, youtube.com/chatsportstv. But if you're watching on YouTube, just hit that big red button, subscribe. We'll be covering on all the trades that happen this year at the NFL trade deadline. One more Falcons player up next. That is Mohamed Sanu. Again, a type of player that he's a good player. Like, there's no doubts. At minimum, he's a nice secondary option for a contender, like the Falcons used to be. Of course, that's no longer the case for Atlanta. Now, he's in a slightly different position than all the guys you mentioned before. He actually has 2 years left on his contract. $6 million this year, $6.5 in 2020. And the Falcons, they're just not good right now. Therefore, they should trade somebody like Mohamed Sanu, because, why wouldn't they? Get some more assets for what could be a rebuild with a new coaching staff in the near future for Atlanta. Now, his numbers have declined a little bit in 2019, but he's pretty steady. About 60 receptions, somewhere in that range. Anywhere between 650 and 830 yards, but we'll say 730 in that general time frame. About 4 or 5 touchdowns per year. That's not number one production, but that's really good secondary option. He only costs $6 million. That's a steal for a wide receiver, too. So here's my proposed trade. Mohamed Sanu goes to the San Francisco 49ers, where, of course, Kyle Shanahan's not a head coach. He, of course, coached Sanu in Atlanta. I got this going for a 2020 4th-round pick, about the same price tag as Emmanuel Sanders. He's cheaper overall. You get 1 more year of him. Ends up kind of equaling out, even though I think Sanders is the better overall player. Sanu, most importantly, knows the Kyle Shanahan scheme. That makes it a lot easier for a player to adjust once he's on the new roster. So let me know in the comments, and we'll get some other trade details, so let me know for that too. Who says no? Give me a 4 if the 49ers say no, F for the Falcons, or if you think both teams say no, you can say both. Or if you think it's a good deal, let me know. I think this works. I went with conditional because it is a little bit, I think, pricey for San Francisco, but if they miss the playoffs, it can be dropped down to a 5th, but in all reality, that's going to be a late 4th-round pick. I think that's a worthwhile investment to give the Niners another option, another needed one right now at the receiver position. All right, a big name, and I like this one. It's been very quiet, and I am almost confused by that, but I think we should be talking more about a potential Yannick Ngakoue trade by the Jacksonville Jags. Think about it. He held out earlier this year. He wants to get paid. He did report eventually. He's not been as productive this year, and the Jags already traded away Jalen Ramsey. Why wouldn't they do something similar with Yannick? Now, they are not going to get a Khalil Mack style haul. And frankly, I think the Jadeveon Clowney and D4 trades and whatnot have actually maybe pulled down the edge rusher value just a little bit for players who are in the last years of their deal. But make no mistake, there will be interest in Ngakoue if the Jags actually decide to trade him. Buffalo, Baltimore, Detroit, I love those fits for him. Seattle, they're still not getting that much pass rush. But what about the Oakland Raiders? Reports are they want some edge rush help. I think Yannick would be a perfect addition. He's young, you can extend him. He's not going to demand, I don't think, $20 million, so it'll be cheaper than Khalil Mack. The issue for Oakland, I think the proper value for Yannick is a 2nd-round pick. Young player, you want to extend him. It's not a 1st-round pick. Issue for Oakland, they don't have one. It's going to Chicago. But what the Raiders can do is offer both of their 3rd-round picks, one from Chicago, one for Oakland. That's about worth a 2nd-round selection. I think this would be a great move for Oakland. Jacksonville gets even more assets to begin what could be a lengthy, or at least short-term rebuild through the draft. All right, Raiders fans, let me know in the comment section who you guys want to trade for. Rumors are Oakland's going to be working the trade deadline here to get some more defensive help. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. And I know you guys are already subscribed to the Raiders Report, but hey, stay tuned for some Mitch videos coming up later this week. All right, Leonard Williams and the New York Jets. Teams have called, which I think makes sense, because again, a very common theme of almost all of these players. Last year of their deals, teams that aren't that good. The Jets have rebuffed them so far. Williams hasn't been as effective this year in terms of production, but he has still made some penetration and some disruption overall this year. Last year of his deal, Jets just drafted Quinnen Williams. They play somewhat similar positions. I don't know which route they're going to go. He would be a defensive end in a 3-4 scheme, a defensive tackle in a 4-3 scheme. The numbers, though, fairly consistent. Beyond 2017, which was just a down year, you're getting a couple of sacks per year, tackle for loss production. I think his value, at minimum, is a third-round pick because the Jets would get that if he were to leave in NFL free agency. I think that's about what they're starting with there. I don't know if he gets dealt, but he is definitely a name to monitor. Speaking of monitoring, if you do bets, you got to follow along and pay attention to what's going on with other bets out there. What's going on with the sharp bettors? Well, the Action Network, it's the best way to do that. Chatsports.com/deal gets you 40% off the Action Network. They've got live odds and bet tracking. So you can see, okay, let's say there's 60% of the public bets are on Team A. Oh, but wait a minute. The money's is 60% on Team B. That tells you the public's going this way, but the sharp bettors are going this way. Follow the sharps. You'll make extra money that way on the Action Network. Download the app today. Chatsports.com/deal saves you 40% off only for us NFL fans here on Chat Sports. All right, a few players left here. Next up, Kenyon Drake. Now, the Dolphins had extension talks with Kenyon Drake. At the same time, the reports that they're open to trading him. Here's where I think the Dolphins are at with Kenyon Drake. Last year of his contract, they've got so much money to spend, they're going to sign other teams' players. What that likely means is they are not going to get a comp pick back for Kenyon Drake in free agency. That means they don't have to say, no, we get a fifth, we want at least a fifth. I think Drake is available for almost any price tag. And he hasn't been that good for Miami. I know it's a bad offensive line, but he hasn't been very good. So if a contender says, hey, Dolphins, we'll give you a sixth, I think Miami does that. And frankly, I think they do it really quickly. The problem is, I don't know if he actually gets dealt. I think that's a common theme here for our next three players, including Drake. Players who should get dealt, but do teams actually want them? Tyler Eifert next up here. They need to sell. The Bengals do. Now, I don't know if guys like A.J. Green and Carlos Dunlap and Geno Atkins will actually be traded, but at minimum, if you're Cincinnati, it's very clear. You suck this year. You are not making the playoffs. You have got to sell at the deadline. Maybe it's not the big-name players, but keeping somebody like Tyler Eifert does not make sense. He is not part of your long-term plan. You drafted a second-round pick out of Washington at tight end Drew Sample. Play him. And there are teams that need a tight end. The Seattle Seahawks, the Saints, and the Patriots. I think there's interest in Tyler Eifert. Sell him for a fifth-round pick. That's something that helps you out as you rebuild your team, and frankly looks like to be a long rebuilding process. I think Eifert absolutely must be dealt by the Bengals, or it's a failure by that team and that front office. All right, the last player here, Michael Bennett. Notable name, right? The relationship with New England has soured, to put it lightly. He has been suspended for one game. The Patriots have gone from more of a 4-3 defense into a kind of a 3-4 because Danny Shelton's played really well. Jamie Collins is back, and Bennett now is a substitution pass rusher. He doesn't like that. He wants to play. He's a cheap, proven vet. I don't know what the value is, though, because of that suspension. Maybe you flip him for a late-round pick and then add that onto a trade for receiver and tight end. But I think Bennett's trade value heading the wrong direction as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline. Those were our top 10 candidates, so let me know in the comments section. You can only pick one player. What player do you think is most likely to be dealt? Let me know in the comments section. You got to put $100 down on BetDSI, of course. Who are you putting your money on? For me, I'm going to go with Emmanuel Sanders. I don't see a scenario in which he's back in Denver. Barring injury, it's the only one out there. I think Sanders for sure is going to move this year at the 2019 NFL trade deadline.